Welcome to Lead Stronger Longer. I am your host, Stefana Johnson, and today we have an incredible guest, Neeraja Ganesh. She is a TEDx speaker. She is a multi-award-winning leadership coach, a two-time top 100 thought leader recognized by Thinkers 360. Neeraja has spoken on global stages, facilitated powerful leadership programs like Trailblaze Hers, and is widely known for her expertise in networking and storytelling. A rich background in IT leadership and a passion for mentorship. She is dedicated to empowering women and fostering leadership excellence. Please help me welcome Neeraja. I am so grateful that you have taken your time. You're completely on the other side of the world, and it's a totally opposite hours. And I am incredibly grateful because I think this is going to be an insightful conversation for our listeners that will not only inspire everyone to lead with more confidence, but more impact in that positive way that you're here to create. So let's get started with your defining or your mantra, your guiding principle. What would that be for you?
Okay. So I have two. I think I have many, but let me talk about these two. The first one is what's the worst that can happen? And that's a mantra, that's a question that I ask every time I need to take a decision or anything that comes in front of me. And the second one is treat every interaction as an opportunity.
So how those are almost juxtaposed to each other. So how do those show up in your life? Can you give us an actual example?
Surely, yes. So both in my personal and professional life. So every decision that I have made, I have actually asked this question, what's the worst that can happen? You know what happened? People usually look at what's in it for me. The minute something comes up, what's in it for me? And then, you kind of take a decision. But I think that philosophy actually doesn't allow us to explore every opportunity. So to give an example, supposing we have three job offers in front of us. One probably giving us a 10K salary, another is a 15K, and the third is a 20K. Usually people will say, okay, the 20K is the best because what's in it for me? I'm making so much more than the first job, which is only 10K. So let me go for the 20K one. However, there might be some attributes in the first or the second job which could enable us to learn and grow over a period of time. And the kind of salary that we may make at a later point in time is incredible if we were to choose that, right? Now, if we put the question, what's the worst that can happen? The answer is I will lose 10K if I take the first job. I lose 5K, if I take on the second job. However, does it really impact? I may not necessarily need the 20K salary, right? I'm good with the 10K salary, but then it allows me to explore the other aspects of that job and then maybe take, a much better decision. That's how I usually look at what's the worst that can happen. And I will give you an example. Very early on in my career, the second job that I was in, I had gotten an offer. It was actually doubling my salary from my previous job. I have been in technology for the first 25 years of my life. So technology jobs really came at a premium. So doubling the salary was really great, right? And just after I got that offer letter, I got another offer from another company. And since I had this new offer letter, they made that much better than this. Now, obviously, one would go for the better offer. But what I did was I called up this company, which gave me the first offer, and I told them, see, I have another offer. Okay. And the MD, the managing director, asked me to come over and meet him. And he told me, Neeraja, I can do two things. I can match that offer right now because I know you're very good and I would like you to join us. So if it is that you won't join us because of the other better offer, I can match that for you. However, what would happen with that is I've already given you such a high salary that in the next 6 months, when there is a performance appraisal cycle, salary revisions, I won't be able to give you too much of a hike because I've already taken you at a very high salary. And I know you'll perform so well, and you and I both will be disappointed that we can't give you an adequate increase then. The second option is you join me at the offer that I have given you now. And I will promise you that in 6 months, because I know you will perform extremely well, my raise to you after 6 months would be much, much better than what this other company is offering. And I took him up on that offer. And true to his word, he again doubled my salary in 6 months. So I think, that's a mantra which has really kept me going.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, I heard a few things there. First, it reminded me of doing a pros and a cons list, and being able to take the time and actually sit with it and not do snap decisions, which I really hear you are competent at, and set that as an example. What a gift as a mentor. And then I heard communication. You actually were willing to go and communicate to the previous offer. And as a result, well, clearly he was willing to communicate as well, and then laid out the cards, being authentic and being an authentic leader who said what it was, not make wrong or try and manipulate at all. I didn't hear that. And then I heard you being able to make, thinking it all the way through with him as a leader. What a great story and what a great example of what a strong leader would do,
Absolutely.
both from your
Absolutely.
perspective as you being a leader in IT, and then that leader wanting to bring on a leader in that. I love that. Perfect. Perfect example of both of those in action. Okay.
Yeah, and today the term ghosting is so common, right? People just don't get back to you, and I get so disappointed with that. I mean, open up and say what is it that is bothering you because of which you don't want to engage with the other person. Maybe there will be a via media, or you could part on good terms. But the ghosting has become so pronounced these days. You suddenly become quiet. You don't even talk to the person.
Yeah, and I have a theory about that. When a leader is not whole themselves, that happens because they're essentially hiding. It's an energetic hiding, but that's a whole other topic. We could talk about that at some point, but I want to
Yeah.
get into what's made you, like, you are now specializing here. You've got these TED Talks. You're really have evolved from IT and expanded. So what led to that? Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So while I was in technology and a technology leader, I always had a passion for grooming people. Throughout, those opportunities, I had to pick my direct reports. Usually leaders will take people from their previous team or previous organizations because they've worked with them and they have a good equation, right? Or they would want to kind of hire people who have shown these leadership traits. But I was always different. I would bring in people where I saw the potential. So they've never done this prior, but I could see the potential in them, and I would bring them into leadership roles and then groom them into better leaders. So that's been me forever, mentoring, guiding people, and I always had this passion for women because you don't get those many opportunities, and women also sometimes hold themselves back because they want to be perfect before they put up their hand for opportunities. So I was always helping women aspire and reach their aspirations. I always had a stretch assignment going for me in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. So that was always there. I started mentoring women outside my organization because there are a lot of platforms that have started now, which allow us this opportunity. In India, there are a few I can name: Her Key, Aspire for Her, and so on. And what happened was I realized that women who had taken a career break for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, for whatever reason, they were finding it very difficult to restart their careers. Companies were, and this is way back in 2016. I went to a conference for women on a career break, and the stories that I heard from these women in terms of the kinds of questions they were asked at the interview, if they managed to get to the interview, it was as if all their previous experiences were wiped out and they had committed a grave sin because they took the career break. And it really, I just felt I had to do something about it. That's all. I had to do something about it. Now, what that something would be, I wasn't sure. But then I got onto all these platforms and started mentoring, coaching. And I started talking to my own organization to say, hey, I think we must bring these women back into the workforce because they have everything going for them. We may just need to reskill them a little bit more, give them a little more confidence, but they'll do a great job. And when I decided to quit from the corporate workspace after 25 years, which is a year after that, so 2017, I knew that I had to be in this space. So I started looking out for opportunities which enabled me to drive projects. Also, I started looking at developing my own programs so that I'm able to help these women build their confidence and grow up in their careers.
Incredible. I heard so much there. A couple things that I wanted to unpack because it ties back into something you said early in that what's in it for me. And what I hear that's so different about you is you're looking from the viewpoint and all these opportunities that you see is what's in it for us.
Right.
Yeah, and there is an innate sense of what you were saying is it's always been in me. I've always had this in me. So that's innate for you. And I think that that is an incredible trait for leaders is to cultivate what is innately in them instead of this, to go back to your ghosting, instead of ignoring what is true, because I think that that's ultimately what does lead to that, all that burnout. And your ability to observe and to see this and then to take action. This is so valuable. This to me is how we are going to make the positive impact that we're here to make as leaders. And it's so important. And I really love that you were able to observe and then your authentic passion for women, but in a compassionate way, not like, oh, a zealot. It's like, whoa, it's because it's innate in you as opposed to because it's now the thing to do. I really
Absolutely.
love that. I feel so inspired by you. And this is where I just want everyone is like, look, this is how we can be. This is how we can live our lives. Not that they have to be they don't have to be exactly you or exactly me, but they can be themselves and bring out the best, which I see and hear in you that you are naturally doing that because you're embodying that. That's so powerful. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you for
If I
that.
can just add on there, when I felt I needed to do something, now I didn't know what that something would be. But whatever came my way, if I could mentor one woman, I was happy with that because at least I'm making an impact on one woman. So I know that people, want to draw out huge business plans and look at scaling and, how do one monetize this. Yes, of course, money is important. I'm not denying that. But if you're going to look at those grandiose plans, you're forever planning. So I just said, okay, whatever comes my way, if I can be an ambassador, if I can be a mentor, if I can be a coach, and one led to the other. And yeah, very quickly, I am here where I am.
Sorry about that. So I muted myself and I'm trying to come back to this. So one of the things that I was going to go right to your lessons in the struggle, because I bet you have a good story that you can share with us. But I do want to acknowledge that you, it's almost as if you are so whole in your own energy that you are able to stay balanced when things come up and then also take the next right action. And I guess it does come back to your essentially those two mantras and now I can see them completely evolving how it's evolved because at first what's the worst that can happen? I think, well, if I'm looking for the worst that can happen, I'm probably going to find it, but you're looking at it from a totally different way. You're more like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to put
Exactly.
myself out there and I'm going to show up and that's the opportunity. So that's really interesting how that's evolved. Okay, so lessons in the struggle. I would really love to go a little bit deeper on this because clearly you're very well grounded, but a deeper lesson, maybe if you're willing to share some of those deeper, harder stories that we can all learn from.
Sure. I was in ANZ. That's a huge bank in the Australia New Zealand space. I worked there for 16 years, and I grew in very senior leadership positions. And I was at a point in time in this vertical, which was testing services. So any product that is a technology product needs to be tested before you can actually implement it, right? So I was in this vertical. And then ANZ decided that they are going to outsource the entire testing services to another organization. We were 500 people in this testing services, and which meant that all 500 of us would either lose jobs because now it's going to another company. But then they did something very smart. Now, the other company, which is Capgemini, cannot hire 500 people all of a sudden to continue those services. So they just took us on. So we got rebadged, as the term is, as Capgemini employees, right? Now, obviously, there was some paperwork which said that these 500 people should be kept on the rolls for 6 months. You should not let them go. And we were given very, very decent, terms so that we all joined the organization. However, I was not a testing professional. You know, in a organization like ANZ, you get an opportunity to move between various teams, and then you develop your skills. So I was very new into testing, and this switch happened. So I was not a deep testing professional. So in this vertical that I was taken into Capgemini, I was really useless, if I may say that, because I was not the testing person and a testing leader. So 6 months they kept me because of the paperwork. And then they moved me on to what is called as bench. Bench is, people who are not billable. So they are not bringing any revenue. And it's not a good place to, literally also you don't like to sit on bench, and it's not a good place because you are not bringing in revenue. You can be thrown out of the company anytime. And they were watching me as to what I would do. So what I did was I put up my hand and I told the leader of this particular entity, see, you tell me if you have some initiatives that you've been wanting to drive for a very long time, but you have not been able to. I will pick it up and I will do it for you. So it was like a challenge he threw at me. He gave me two very, very big initiatives. One of them was called as industrialization, which meant that we had so many clients that we were servicing. And every team that was servicing a client had made their own, best practices. They had their own apps to kind of better, the delivery. So he said, I would like you to bring all of them together into a central repository. Because if it's a best practice for one client, we can always take it to other clients. But today, nobody knows. So I want you to talk to the 50 odd teams that exist and bring all of them and make a central repository of the best practices. And the second one he told me was, I want you to build a dashboard which says which client account is performing the best. Till now, no, we have not got a dashboard like that. And clearly so, right? I mean, who wants to say I'm doing well, I'm not doing well? People won't open up and give you the data. And these are really, really senior leaders. So I understood why he has not been able to drive these initiatives, because there are no takers for this. But while I was not a testing professional, my previous experience of having driven projects in ANZ and my stakeholder engagement skills, I managed to kick off these two and gave him the first dashboard in 3 months. And 3 months, I was able to centralize all the best practices. And when he looked at that, he said, she is a leader that needs to be really placed in some critical projects. And it led me, to kind of also get awarded and be sent to a global women's leadership development program and so on. Within, joining the company, within 2 years of joining this company. And, my peers at the leadership development program had been in this organization for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So for me, I think that challenge really brought out what I was really good at, which is basically beyond my leadership skills, my stakeholder management skills. What I also tell people is, I think we should not just go deep technically into that one thing that we are good at. You should make yourselves like a team. The vertical of the T is your core skills, but the horizontal of the T is all your softer aspects. And you have to kind of widen that horizontal as much as possible, which is what I brought to the table from my previous experiences. And I was able to kind of pull this off.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. And I love that T. Okay. So much there. I'm not going to unpack too much of it, but clearly you had a good mentor. You had a good leader, and I can see that trend throughout your life is that you had those that were in leadership positions with you to see in you what you are able to see. And so that's just in your whole ethos. Wow. The T, that's great. That I've never heard that before. That is excellent. So the core skills and then the soft skills, which I wouldn't mind actually a little bit more. So as we're bringing all that T, the top of the T out. But the question that I have for you, because I mean, you have just evolved. You've got from the TEDx talk to, I mean, just so much that you have created. And I see that it's because you have chosen to see the opportunities and then to take action on those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And what's the worst that could happen? You don't do it, but you did do it, and you did, like, whether it's the TEDx or whether it's all these other, I mean, the awards and accolades you have are incredible. And I didn't read your entire bio, right? Because it's incredible, but I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put it into the show notes and make sure folks can see that. Can you share what has been your most, I would say, most significant experience, but also a breakthrough moment as a leader?
Sure. So, forever in my career, corporate career, I used to always be awarded teams and projects which were in a mess. And then I had to clear up the mess and then kind of take them a notch higher. And I was happy doing that because that really charged me up. I mean, what's the point of, taking on a team which is doing very well and then, you just kind of elevate them better? There's no big challenge over there. So I was given this team, which was called the Asia Pacific Technologies. So in the ANZ Bank, the Asia Pacific Technologies. This team managed the technology for all the Asia Pacific. There were 13 banks in the Asia Pacific, the technology for all of them, the retail banking, the telling system, the ATMs, the infrastructure, everything was managed by this team. But the problem was this team was known by a number, 38. So they used to run these staff engagement surveys to find out how engaged the staff are, whether they're happy. And the staff engagement score was 38%, the lowest in the bank, which means they were very unhappy. And their attrition was 38%, the highest in the bank. So I was given this team and said, you've got to turn this around. Bring down the attrition and ensure that, this team really engages with the organization and all of that. Now, the first thing that I did was, well, the management has given me some data. And they've said this team doesn't work with the rest of the teams. They are, only to themselves, etc. I said, okay, let's keep the management data aside. Let me find out what's happening in the team. So the very first month, I spent the entire month only talking to people one-on-one. Initially, they resisted because they didn't like an external person coming and heading them. They were hoping that someone from within the team would lead. But obviously, the management wanted to see some difference. So they didn't think someone from within the team, if they led, then they could bring about the change. So to even build that rapport for them to open up to me took a while. But I spent the entire first month doing nothing but only conversations, one-on-one, one-on-one. And slowly people opened up. And they started scheduling multiple one-on-ones because now they were opening up and telling me what the challenges were, what they thought about the organization, what they thought about the management. They had a very different view. Management had a view, but the team had a very different view. They felt they were not getting adequate opportunities, promotions, recognition, and all of that. So I kind of documented the whole thing. And the next month, I sat down with the HR department. And I said, I want to see the data about this team for the last 3 years. because I'm hearing they have not been promoted. I'm hearing that they have not been recognized. I'm hearing they have not been, whatever. And the data said something different. They were also getting the same kind of recognition as every other team was getting. But I think the team was not kind of convinced. So I then put up a presentation where I said the company averages this and our team averages this when it comes to promotions, number of increments, the number of recognitions, and all of that. And it was like, okay, really? So the company is taking good care of us. It was an eye opener. So nobody had just on the communication piece, right? Everyone's just having a perception, but nobody's opening up and speaking. And I just did that. Just have open conversations. And from there, of course, I knew that there were certain things that we needed to put in place. And this was where I built a new leadership structure under me, but elevating some of the people from within and then telling them, tell me, how do I, better things? You're saying there's a problem. You give me ideas of how to better. It took me 3 years, but in 3 years, we had the highest staff engagement. We had doubled the team size and we were the highest staff engagement.
Oh, that's incredible. So many pieces here. And I saw you stay consistent. You listened, but you also looked.
Yes,
You heard what they had to say, but then you went and looked at the data.
yes.
And there was no drama or bringing it in. You just like, well, here's the data, and I'm going to give you this presentation. I mean, to me, this is like, in a perfect world, this is how everything would go. We would just, this would be this higher level of understanding and communication and really understanding. I mean, this to me is common sense, but it's not common anymore. It's just not. And I think that is where we need more leaders like you, and this, where it's not even innovating because it's common sense. It's just
Yes.
doing the things that need to be done. And yet it's going to be this major innovation that someone is actually listening and actually doing one to
Because
ones
the
and
leaders
connecting,
usually,
taking the
if
data.
you have a management mandate, then you just want to go with the management mandate. You don't want to disrupt things too much, right? But that's leadership. Leadership is about really figuring out what's on ground reality and not just go with what's been told to you.
Exactly. Exactly. At least competent leadership, right? And that's what we need more of for sure. Oh, I love this. Great, great stories. Okay, so let's go to, oh, we'll take just a couple more minutes. Thank you so much for your time. I do want to know, what advice would you give to up and coming leaders or someone who is a leader, but they're not being that effective? What would you suggest to them?
Sure. The first one is being purpose-led. I think we need to understand the why. Of course, the why behind the organization, the why behind the team, and the why behind, us driving this. And if the purpose is not there or not understood, then each of us is going into a different direction. So I definitely think every leader should lead with purpose. First and foremost, understand what the organization is trying to do and why. And hence, then it kind of drills down to the team and then drills down to the individual. So rather than saying, hey, I want you to, fill up this Google Sheet, can you give a little bit of context? This Google Sheet data is going to be used to make these big decisions. You can imagine how this person will go and fill the Google Sheet data now because he or she understands it's going to have such a big impact. So purpose is the biggest one. Simon Sinek has said, start with why, so I think purpose has to be the most important thing for a leader. And that kind of brings out the fact that you have to draw the bigger picture. Don't think that, this is just one individual in a team of 100. Can we draw out the bigger picture for the entire team and tell every person how they fit into the bigger picture? Immediately, people are willing to kind of contribute. In fact, give, better solutions than what is actually, seen, and take the team and the organization much ahead. And lastly, empower the team. So when I did this in the Asia Pacific Technologies, while I brought in the leaders and I said, okay, tell me what needs to be done, I allowed them to do. I said, I'm here. You want any approvals, you want any money, you want budgets, and you want guidance, I'm there, but you will do it. And so you got to empower the teams and not micromanage. There will be a few, lapses, but that's okay. You know, you got to take those risks. We all have grown that way, and you need to enable them to grow.
Such good wisdom right there. Such good wisdom. Okay, well, speaking of wisdom, let's talk about book wisdom. Do you have book recommendations?
Definitely, definitely. So, one of the things that I've recently gotten, hooked on to is the law of attraction. I don't know how many people actually believe in that or, are curious about it. So, the book, Ask and It Is Given. This is Esther and Jerry Hicks who write about the teachings of Abraham Hicks. Yeah, I'm hooked on to that and I really believe in that. But the other ones are, because I do so much of work in the space of women, Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. And there is an Indian author, Apurva Purohit, who's written a book called Lady, You're the Boss. These are my all-time favorites.
Oh, fine. Okay, yes. Of course, law of attraction. I mean, to me, that's natural law, right? Karma. It's like you get what you give, you get what you put out, you get what you're, right? I mean, that's an important concept. Yes, Cheryl's book is worth reading for sure on Lean In. And Lady, You're the Boss. That's
Yes.
new to me, and I'm
Okay.
excited to just because say the name of the author again.
Apurva Purohit.
Okay. Fantastic. I am super excited about that because that's a new one for me. And where can people get a hold of you, find out more about your work and what you're up to?
LinkedIn is the best. I think
Yes.
people can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes. Yeah, as
Okay.
long as they put in a small message to say, I heard you on this podcast or something, I'll definitely accept their request and, take it forward.
Well, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible experience of just observing, and it's so heartwarming to know that that's happening and in our big beautiful world that you on the other side of the world are creating such a positive impact and that is so valuable. The power of we didn't get into networking too much, but it seems to me that that's just innate in what you're doing is that it's communication and it's being compassionate and that mentorship is again innate in you of being willing to look at where someone's at and have the conversation and not have to put them into your box, but instead allowing them to blossom. And it sounds to me like you've had mentors in your life that allowed that for you as well. So much wisdom, so many takeaways. And everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to Lead Stronger Longer. Please leave a review. It helps us to bring more amazing guests like Neeraja to the show. And until next time, keep leading with purpose so you lead stronger longer. See you next time.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much.